to all ships. Prepare for emergency hyperspace. Set course for the Homeworld.
After untold centuries in exile, the Kuun-Lan had returned to their homeworld of Hiigara. But a new challenge quickly presented itself to the new Hiigarans, keeping their newly won homeworld. While the Taiidan Empire had fractured, far too many of the old Taiidan imperialists desired nothing more than to see the Hiigarans burn for the Taidani's fall from glory, and constantly tested Hiigara's borders with skirmishes and raids. On Hiigara itself, the new Hiigarans struggled to rebuild their society from the ground up. The loss of Karak meant the power dynamic between the Kithid was completely upended. Once mighty Kithid on their former home planet were made humble and insignificant in the new world, while others were thrust into the limelight of being major leaders for the former exiles. It is in this situation that we find Kith Somta, a once respectably large Kith made low by what came to be known as the Burning of Karak. At their height, they numbered 500,000 strong, but now here, on Hiigara, only 15,000 of their Kith brothers and sisters survived. With the larger Kithid quickly taking resources and land for themselves in Hiigara, the Somta realized quickly that there was no future for them if they stayed on their homeworld. But perhaps, in the vastness of space, and with their knowledge of mining, they could reclaim their glory. After a great deal of political maneuvering in the Diamid, the Somta were able to gain access to the mothership, which had since been converted into an orbital shipyard to build the new Hiigaran Navy, as only her construction facilities could produce the state-of-the-art ship that Kith Somta had in mind, the Explorer class. 2 ships of this type were constructed, the Falcorum, and what would become one of the most storied ships of the galaxy, the Kuun-Lan, its name translating to Purifying Flame, a name that would be most accurate in the role she was to play in the future. The Kuun-Lan, and by extension her sister, the Falcorum, were built upon the main lesson gained from the journey to Hiigara, which was the ability to be able to adapt to any and all situations or environments, both known and unknown. Granted, the Kuun-Lan was not about to make war across the galaxy anytime soon, lol, but the galaxy was an unknown and dangerous place. Anything could happen. With this lesson in mind, the Kuun-Lan was designed around its ability to construct and utilize different modules for itself, depending on the situation she would find herself in. This would be a critical component in the Kuun-Lan's campaign against the Beast, as throughout the war she created and utilized 4 modules designed specifically for research and development, with each one geared towards a specific field of study. These 4 modules were Armor, Engineering, Advanced Engineering, and Weapons Research. Their location on the space frame of the Kuun-Lan was typically reserved for a large storage canister that would hold ore harvested by the miners. In the case of her service during the Beast War, this canister was jettisoned early on to facilitate the building of an engineering module to aid in the repair of a Kith Manan frigate. The modular nature of the Kuun-Lan's design actually saved the ship when the Beast infection began spreading quickly amongst the lower decks of the ship, infesting bulkheads, systems, and crew alike. Only by ejecting the lower half of their ship were they able to prevent all of the Kuun-Lan from being infected. But versatility by itself was only one part of survival, a lesson no one knew better than a Hiigaran, regardless of Kith. So the Kuun-Lan was outfitted with 6 mass driver turrets, along with the means to both carry and build Acolyte heavy fighters, along with the Seeker scout craft. In her history, the Kuun-Lan had managed to fool more than one pirate group thinking she was an easy score, a fact that many such criminals regretted not knowing, starting from the time they got inside her weapons range, and ending at the point where her guns blew them apart. However, any discussion of the Kuun-Lan's armaments would be remiss if they did not mention her siege cannon, a long-range cannon that fired a powerful energy projectile that could cause great damage over a wide area. The cannon was obtained from a debris field in a sector of space known as Koreth's Rift. At first, it was easily integrated into the modular design of the Kuun-Lan, but upon its first firing, it blew out the plasma conduits connecting to the ship while doing little damage to the Beast mothership it targeted. Later on in the war, thanks to the studying of the Beast's organic matter, and the integration of advanced heat sink technology provided by the Bentusi, the siege cannon was made into a viable, and potent, weapon against the beast. The armor of the Kuun-Lan was not lacking either. As a matter of fact, due to being the second ship of the Explorer line, Somta engineers were able to take the lessons learned from building the Falcorum and apply that to the Kuun-Lan, by outfitting her with enhanced engines and an extra armor layer, along with a 30% increase in module capacity. According to official sources, her armor is rated at 98,000 at the start of the Beast War, which puts the Kuun-Lan far above the Taidan Quar-Jet heavy cruiser and the Somta Archangel Dreadnought, both at 75,000 and 85,000 respectively. These numbers should not be surprising, as the Explorer class were designed as mini motherships for Kith Somta. On that note, her hangar module did not just have the ability to produce fighter craft. Later on in the war, the Kuun-Lan could build a wide variety of ships, ranging from fighters, corvettes, worker craft, frigates, mobile ore processors, and eventually super capital ships like the aforementioned Archangel Dreadnought. To support such a potential fleet, the Kuun-Lan's engineers developed support modules for the ship that allowed for the maintenance and supply of a greater number of ships in the fleet. Originally, she could only field around 100 support units of spacecraft, but when the maximum of 12 support modules were constructed, then the SU capacity of the Kuun-Lan would be increased to that of 220. In terms of speed, the Somta mothership was not very fast. At 110 meters per second, in actuality she was perhaps the slowest ship that fought in the Beast War. In comparison, the Taidan heavy cruiser topped out at 250 meters per second, and the Tyrannic Lord carrier rated for 235 meters per second, although the poor maneuverability and slow velocity were understandable given her multi-purpose role as a mothership. Before we move into the Kuun-Lan's known history, it needs to be said that due to her absolutely pivotal role in the Beast War from start to finish, not all of the events in said conflict can be covered here. Otherwise, this would turn into a full-length video about the Beast War. Instead, only certain major events will be covered. The Kuun-Lan's beginnings were less than glamorous, as Kith Somta was more interested in creating their future among the stars through mining. So in turn, the Kuun-Lan's focus was strictly on mining operations throughout Hiigaran space. All of that was to change, however, when a desperate call for help came from Kith Nabal, stating that a Taidani fleet was attacking Hiigara itself. Despite a rocky relationship with the leading Kithid, especially the Nabal, the Kuun-Lan would honor their duty to defend the homeworld from those who would take it. They would go on to serve a small but crucial role in the plugging of a gap in the Hiigaran defensive lines, and take part in the final destruction of the Taidan carrier leading the assault. Of course, for their efforts, Kith Nabal rewarded the Somta by forgetting to acknowledge their efforts, when expressing their gratitude to the other Kithid who participated in the defense of Hiigara. In the aftermath, the Kuun-Lan would be assigned with finding a disabled Kith Manan destroyer on the outskirts of the Hiigara system, but during the course of their mission, they found an alien derelict emitting a distress signal. Curious as to its origins, the derelict was brought aboard for study and analysis. But little did the crew of the Kuun-Lan know as to what they would inevitably unleash upon the galaxy. It first started with an unknown infection spreading throughout the lower decks and hangar module of the Kuun-Lan. With the screams of the crew begging to be detached from the rest of the ship to prevent its spread, the captain was forced to do exactly that, condemning his Kith brothers and sisters to a grisly fate. Swiftly rebuilding their hangar module thanks to the design of the Explorer class, the Kuun-Lan captain tasked the Kuun-Lan, a Somta science ship traveling with them, to investigate the ejected half of their ship. As the Kuun-Lan found and closed upon the former lower half of the Kuun-Lan, it appeared to be derelict, with only intermittent signs of life registering on their sensors. But once the science vessel reported these observations, a red beam of energy shot out from the derelict, followed by the terrified screaming from the crew of the Kuun-Lan over the comms. When the terror subsided, an unearthly voice announced itself to the universe with the words, "We live." This was what would come to be known as the Beast, announcing itself to all of creation. The events that followed would eventually be named the Beast War by historians. While this was regarded as a galactic-level conflict that threatened all the major powers, including the Bentusi, it has been widely recognized that it was the efforts of the Kuun-Lan and Kith Somta that proved the most crucial in putting an end to the Beast, who sought to consume all life in the galaxy into itself. Each event in the war for the Kuun-Lan built upon the last, elevating her from a simple mining ship into a proud, full-fledged warship. Again, to cover these events in full would require much more time and detail than would allow here, but some particular highlights of the Kuun-Lan's journey should at least be mentioned, such as the Battle of Gozan IV, where Somta infiltrators snuck into a Taidan Imperial research base while the Kuun-Lan fought a diversionary battle against horrific odds. This was followed by the Somta offensive against a Tyrannic raider outpost located on the far edges of the galaxy, where the Kuun-Lan and the Somta fleet were forced to attack and capture the Tyrannic outpost to access their star charts and find the location of the beast flagship, the Naggarok. Then there was the practically legendary skirmish with the Bentusi, where the Kuun-Lan fought to prevent them from fleeing the galaxy, so that they could enlist their aid in the Somta's efforts to kill the beast high intelligence. But the climax of the Beast War would be the showdown at the Nomad Moon. There, the Naggarok and the Beast Fleet overwhelmed the Taidan Republic forces and took their superweapon, the Nomad Moon, for themselves. Not only did the Kuun-Lan and her fleet have to face off against a Beast Fleet, the Naggarok, and a Taidani superweapon, but a fleet of Taidan Imperial collaborators who were foolishly working with the Beast. But despite being vastly outnumbered, the Kuun-Lan and her Somta warriors charged headfirst into their enemies, fully intent on ending the Beast menace. In a furious and pitched battle, the Naggarok was defeated by the Kuun-Lan and her fleet. With the loss of their guiding intelligence aboard the Beast flagship, the legions of the Beast quickly became nothing more than mindless creatures. With such a blow struck against these monsters, the fleets of the galaxy were able to turn the tide against the Beast. And soon after, the threat of extinction by these creatures became nothing more than a bad memory. The story of the Kuun-Lan was not just that of a ship, but of a Kith rising to the challenge of preventing a galaxy-wide cataclysm, through determination, tenacity, and courage. This former mining ship had become the embodiment of Kith Somta's new reputation as warriors and beast slayers.